Chatty Wednesdays with me.
I am fascinated by this comment that somebody left on my last video, so let's talk about it. I've lived in London my whole life. I grew up here, briefly moved away to go to university, then I moved back. I've lived in West London, East London, South London. I've missed North London, but I've covered most of the bases. I have always felt very safe living in London. I've never felt threatened, I've never felt frightened, I've always felt incredibly safe. And as a busker, you know, I've had one or two incidents, people trying to steal my money, just like slightly negative interactions. You know, I've been busking since 2012, so we're coming on to 13 years now, and I can count probably on one hand the number of negative crime-related incidents that I've experienced in that time. And I find it so strange that people say this, and to the person that commented this, I hope that you don't think I'm calling you out. I'm not. It's just, I get this comment every now and then from people about, you know, how do you live in London? How do you busk in London? How do you visit London? It's so unsafe. And I'm just baffled by this idea that London's not a safe place to be. The story that people are told that there's a lot of crime in London or that it's not safe, it's just not true. And there's crime in all big cities, and like London's not even the most unsafe city to live in the UK. Like I looked this up because I was so interested, because I just don't consider it to be an unsafe place to live. I feel very safe here. The crime rates in Birmingham and Manchester are higher than London, so I don't know why people, the story always is that London's very unsafe. There is no part of London that I don't feel like I can visit. I feel safe in all parts of London. I've lived in some of the most unsafe parts of London, and I've walked there at night and felt perfectly fine. And obviously walking around at night time, you have your wits about you. I feel like you would do that anywhere. I would actually feel safer walking down the street in Streatham at midnight than I would walking down a country lane in the middle of nowhere. I am somebody who loves to walk around with my phone in my hand. I'm currently addicted to TikTok, so I tend to have my headphones in, my phone in my hand, open, watching scrolling TikToks as I walk down the road. As I busk in one of the most touristy areas in London, I'm often walking around the Waterloo and that kind of area with my phone in my hand, which is a dangerous game and I don't advise anybody does that, but I've never had my phone snatched out of my hand. I know that that does happen, and I think that everybody should have their wits about them, and yeah, definitely put your phone away if you can when you're walking down the street. But at the same time, that's advice that I give, it's not advice that I follow. And I do often have my phone out. It's actually a miracle probably that I haven't had my phone stolen, to be honest. I don't know how I can really stop this myth going around that London is a really dangerous and unsafe place to be, other than say that I've always lived here and I've always felt safe here. My experience of crime has been very low. And yeah, I don't feel like busking in London is more unsafe than busking anywhere else. In fact, I follow, as I say, I'm addicted to TikTok. I follow a lot of buskers on TikTok, and a lot of them seem to have a lot of incidents in other cities across the UK, busking on regular high streets all up and down the country. There seem to be a lot more incidents with them than I personally experienced busking in central London. One thing I will say is that this rhetoric that London's not safe and it's getting worse, that's being pushed by people who have their own agendas, in my opinion, involving London and its high immigrant population. Perhaps there's a lot of people right now that want to push the agenda that that's a bad thing, and it isn't. Figures and statistics are being slightly twisted in order to push a certain agenda. I do find that a lot, that I get sort of randomly targeted by these anti-London accounts. I don't know if they're like bots. Maybe I'm getting a little bit like tin hat here on this whole thing, but I definitely find there's an anti-London agenda that's being pushed, anti-Sadiq Khan agenda that's being pushed, and I find that when I talk about London, I do get some of those bots or some of those accounts coming for me. I don't know if this is one of those, but I wanted to address it because anyone who's not a bot out there who has these opinions on London, I'd really like you to reconsider. Also, just be skeptical of some of the media and press that is out there about London, because I find it to be wholly untrue as somebody who lives here. And I know that I have a lot of people who do watch me who do live in London, and I'd love to get your opinion to see if you agree, if you find that it is quite a safe place to live. Do you think it's gotten worse over time? My personal experience is that it hasn't, but I know I'm a very positive person and I try and see the bright side of things. But for me, London's always a bright side. I think it's a great place to be. The world can be a scary place if you believe everything you read in the news. I think that it can be a beautiful place if you look for the joy in the world, and that's what I choose to do. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week. Bye.